My name is Nikita, and I will be moderating this webinar along with my colleague Henrik here, who will be our technical support if anything happens along the way. I will just give a short introduction while we wait for everyone to log on. Today is a welfare technology webinar and matchmaking event. This is organized by Innovation Norway. And we're going to gather welfare tech companies and other interested stakeholders to talk about what is a welfare technology, what does it mean in Norway, what does it mean in Europe, and how can we learn from a B2B partnership with Scalefocus and Norsk Regnesentral later speaking. What opportunities do you have if you're interested in the EEA and Norway Grants for B2B collaboration? So we're going to be touching upon a lot. We're going to be talking about the upcoming welfare calls as well. And yeah, let's start this webinar with a little poll that my colleague Henrik will launch, just to understand why you guys are here, what are you looking for, and just so we can, yeah, get to know each other, even though we can't all see each other. Okay, so people are still casting their votes, and it's a good mix, project cooperation, welfare technology, finding a partner, learning more about the grants, and that's really good because that's exactly the topics we'll be touching on today. And we have a little mix of people who are also familiar with the EEA and Norway Grants, about fairly similar representation from not familiar to very familiar. So we have people with different backgrounds here as well and previous knowledge. All right, so that was just a little bit of information for us to see where you guys are standing. Over to our first speaker, Arild Kristensen. He is the CEO of Norwegian Smart Care Cluster. And that is a national and international collaboration hub for companies, healthcare providers, R&D institutions, and financial players. And some of your members are also present here today, Arild. The focus that you guys have is on transformation, innovation, commercialization, and internationalization of healthcare and welfare tech solutions. So please give us a short brief about the welfare tech scene in Norway and how you guys work.
Yes, I think you need to stop sharing your screen.
Yes, true. Oh yes, I think you should be able to.
Yeah, that's fine.
I can just stop share. Okay, yeah, great. There we go.
Yeah. Hello everyone. My name is Arild Kristensen. I'm the CEO of the Norwegian Smart Care Cluster. We are a cluster consisting of members from companies, big, small, startups, universities, R&D institutions, government with the hospitals, municipalities, and investors. We have been active for about 6 years, working in the space of digital health, or smart care, or welfare technology, as is called here. So our members, we work in the area of everything that happens between the home and the hospital, home and municipality, and home and nursing homes. So a lot of our members are in what we call the digital health space, but also some on medtech moving home. So in Norway, what's happening on the program, and I apologize, part of this slide is in Norwegian, but we have had a national program from the government running since 2014 up till it ends this year, with the ambition that all municipalities in Norway will include welfare technology as part of their services to citizens. So as part of giving care and treatment, welfare technology will be part of what's going on. So there has been a lot of money poured into the municipalities, pilots, testing, and now implementation throughout the country. And I think the latest figure I saw was that around 80+% of the municipalities in Norway have adopted welfare technology as part of their service arrangement. And it also, due to the corona situation, it has speeded up implementation a lot over the past 6 months. So what the government has looked at in terms of solutions, it has started with safety and security type technologies, how to be safe at home, digital safety alarms, fall sensors, medical dispensers, that kind of stuff. It had also moved into self-management technologies, like how to monitor yourself in various angles and so on. And then the latest we are testing out in several pilots is treatment through telemedicine technology. The fourth category, as defined by the Norwegian government, wellness, is not part of the program. So that the municipalities has to do on their own and implement. So these are the sort of the main areas. And I have to say that I think Norway is fairly advanced, the Norwegian municipalities, in how they have adopted this. Speaking for the companies in the cluster side, we think that they are slow adopters, but when we look at what's happening in Europe and the rest of the world, I think we are fairly advanced and ahead of the curve of using digital technologies into this. There are 4 health clusters in Norway working in this space, and we are the one who works in the welfare tech. Cancer cluster, of course, cancer, Norway Health Tech, more on medtech hospital side, but we collaborate very well. And life science is also life science, as I said, between health and food. So from the cluster side and from the Norwegian industry side, we are always looking for partners that can bring our companies abroad. So of course, the Polish market, for instance, it could be an interesting market to enter if the situation is right. And I think the EES grants, the attractiveness of those would be for Norwegian companies to find partners to also to bring their solutions abroad. And we are so to speak a good contact point in that sense. So that was really fast and quick, a little bit about the cluster. We could be a place to look for collaborators on an application, but you have to be very clear, I think, on why do you want a partner, and why do you want this particular partner, and what's in it for them? Since you are the ones who are receiving the grants, and you need a commercial agreement with the Norwegian partner as such. But there is big focus, to wrap it up, there is a big focus on digital home care, which has really also increased after the COVID. So this is a hot topic for hospitals, for municipalities, and of course for companies in Norway. So with that, I think I leave it. I will be on this call for another 3 or 4 minutes. So if there are any questions, put them in the chat and I can answer them immediately. If not, post them to Nikita and she can forward the questions to me afterwards. Thank you.
Great, Arild, thank you so much. That was a really quick introduction. I hope that was useful as well for our international attendees. You really touched upon the importance of welfare tech in Norway and showing how Norwegian solutions can contribute towards assisting people with impairments and which technologies you work within. So that was really nice, thank you. Over to our next speaker, and again, just for our attendees, there is a Q&A function. So if you have any questions, please present your questions in the Q&A function. Over to our next speaker. I'm not sure how to present your last name, but Grzegorz.
Yes, I know.
Yes, you will be talking about the Polish welfare technology scene, and yeah, please.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, I think it is difficult to pronounce Grzegorz Mączyński. I know it's one of the most complicated name and second name, last name in Polish language and with Polish typical Polish letters. Rzeszy. Okay, I will put my screen. It should be now seen by you. Okay, my name is, as mentioned, Grzegorz Mączyński, and I'm a lawyer practicing in life science sector. I'm cooperating with industry association called Technomed, which is gathering medtech and welfare companies in Poland. So I will present you some perspectives of Polish market regarding present situation, possible trends and perspectives after COVID-19, because it, of course, affects our market and our companies as well. Starting with some demographic situation, because this is the main issue here, which affects everything in the welfare sector in Poland. This data comes from Polish main governmental office for statistics. It's called GUS, and on the right from Eurostat. As you may see on the left, there are trends in demographics in Poland, and we are getting older in our country. There is growing percentage of seniors now. Also, it's due to longer life. On the right side of the graph, and there are predicted future trends. Till 2070 will be one of the oldest society in Europe. So, in other words, big part of Polish society will be directly and personally familiar with the music trends and fashion from the beginning of this century. So we are getting older, and of course it is a fundament for development of the silver economy in Poland, but it's a necessity in our country to develop that part of economy. There are identified key possible areas of that development. First is information technologies used in inpatient and outpatient treatment, as in other countries, but there is also need to use them in Poland because we've got quite big shortage of medical personnel. So help with help of technologies will be needed here. Adaptation of services and infrastructure to make life easier. We need to generally improve some areas here. We've made big step forward, but there are some infrastructural problems that should still be resolved. We need to develop more technologies regarding hearing, sight, and orthopedics due to longer life and trying to stay fit as long as it's possible. Also, the area of development of fitness and wellness and healthy lifestyle is one main issue in a policy agenda of self-governments and administrative offices in Poland. Also, there is area possible of development is popularization of senior independence due to IT solutions and insurance and financial service for seniors. Also, there is a big space for that due to retirement security and to insurance against risk related to aging for our rapidly aging population. There is also huge, as in other countries, impact of COVID-19 to Polish welfare sector. There's of course need for increased protection of seniors. We are seeing that it's broader understanding of their needs and ensuring remote care due to social distancing for them. Digital revolution in healthcare system in Poland is a fact. We've got new tools like e-prescription, remote monitoring of patients, and there's this is the need to use that because problems of keeping social distance for older people is solved by this technological solutions, and we are thinking that will be for at least half of a year will be main solution of that problem. Fitness and wellness industry is having a hard time, as in other countries, also in Poland, and lockdown and financial implications of that will also have huge impact on healthcare and social policy spending. So, as in other countries, we've got problems from the COVID-19 and pandemic lockdowns, but there is kind of revolution, informatic IT revolution that will be following that problems. Polish society is also open for new technologies. I found some nice information that 60% patients in Central and Eastern Europe, including Poland, declared that their readiness to use telemedicine solutions, according to PwC analysis. But this analysis was before the pandemic. Now it should be even more open society for that kind of solution. So there are big perspectives to participate in Polish silver economy for companies abroad. So you are welcome to invest in Poland and to start cooperate with our companies. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very useful. And I think Norway, what we have understood from our participating companies from Norway is that Poland is indeed a very attractive market. So I hope that this was insightful for our attendees. Over to talking about, now we have presented Norway and Poland, but now we're going to go to Bulgaria actually, and we're going to present a project partnership that was that received funding from the EEA and Norway Grants. We are going to be talking to Krasimir Kostindanov, I'm sorry about the pronunciation, and he is the head of pre-sales in the Bulgarian company Scalefocus, and Alexander Dimitrovsky, the marketing director in Scalefocus, and Wolfgang Lister, who's the acting research director at Norsk Regnesentral. Now, you have been working on a product together called Sound Vision, and I will let you talk a little bit about that. And then we are actually just going to have a discussion, just because I think we are curious to understand how this partnership works, how it has developed, and this is often feedback that we get from our participants in such digital events, is that they want to know more concretely how these partnerships actually work. So without further ado, I will let you shortly introduce yourselves and Scalefocus.
Okay, I'll shortly introduce Scalefocus, and Wolfgang will introduce Norsk. So Scalefocus is a Bulgarian company founded in 2012. We are IT services, consultancy and solutions company since the beginning. And one of the chief ways that we try to finance our solutions and products that we try to develop is through either the Innovation Norway grants or EU grants. So that's the short version. Wolfgang?
Yeah, I'm from Norsk Regnesentral. My name is Wolfgang Leister. Norsk Regnesentral is a research institute in Oslo. We are working in IT and statistics research for industry, more or less. And we have also EU projects and other type of projects like this one, for example.
Great. And can you shortly, in one sentence, just talk about what is Sound Vision and what are you actually developing together?
Yes, so Sound Vision it started off as an idea to create devices, electronic devices to help the visually impaired, in short. It evolved through quite a few iterations. Right now, it takes the form of a smart device that you can install applications on. Basically, you can think of it as a smart hub for the visually impaired, smart sensors hub. Basically, all the sensors and functionalities are tailored to the needs of the visually impaired, and they can customize the experience and what actually they use the device for through the installation of applications.
Interesting. I think we have quite a few companies as well present working with visual or audio impairments. So that's a very relevant case to present. And so how did you find each other as a partner, and how did you decide that this is something that you want to cooperate on?
So in short, we met, actually my colleague Nadia, who is also participating in the call, but she's only listening in. She met actually Wolfgang and representatives of Norsk in an ICT 2020 event in Vienna, which was a face-to-face brokerage event. And there were a few Norwegian research institutes, actually companies, the research institute and such. So yeah, that's the story in short.
Yeah, nice. So it's still back to physical meetings, but we hope that also digital matchmaking can maybe create some new partnerships in a different way. And actually, can you tell us about the cooperation, actually how it's been in 2020 so far, and how you have experienced it under lockdown, and how you work together?
Yeah, so initially, actually, the cooperation kicked off with actually with travel to Oslo, which currently is not as easily available as it was. But hopefully that will be possible again soon. But we had a number of sessions prior to the pandemic in Oslo with the partners from Norway, and also currently we're having regular calls. We're using Teams during the development of the project. Of course, most of the communication anyway was done online since the beginning, prior to the pandemic, because it's much more convenient to meet. We are meeting once every 2 weeks to exchange notes, to see how the progress goes, to exchange ideas, and so on and so forth. And as I said, we're primarily using Teams, and it's been actually the pandemic precisely hasn't impacted us at all as a team, because we were used to working as a company. We are used to working with partners from all over the world, but this precise partnership has been mostly digital since the beginning. So yeah.
Great. And Wolfgang, can you also just say a few words about your contribution as a partner into this project? I think it's very interesting for our Norwegian participants to understand the role of a partner in an EEA and Norway Grants project. Do you have something you would like to share there?
Yeah, I can say that our role is to solve some kind of technical things yeah, the device. The project is about two things. One is the device, and the other one is kind of the contact to the users, and maybe via a mobile phone. So we are looking more on the things that are done on the mobile phone, developing things there. And while Scalefocus is more focusing on the device as such. Mm-hmm. So, and yeah, we can also say that the communication works quite well with using Teams, and we also have Teams discussion and solve technical things, kind of breakout meetings through Teams. That works quite well.
That's really good to hear. Digital collaboration is often sometimes more effective than meeting in physical and taking the time and money to fly to see each other. That's good to hear. And what opportunities do you think the EEA and Norway Grants has provided for both of you? I mean, apart from funding, of course, but has this been a stepping stone into a new market, developing a new product that you might not have done otherwise? How has this been a catalyst or been important for your collaboration?
So on our side, actually, as I said, the initial idea for the device was quite different. The collaboration has helped us shape the idea for the end product, because actually the great thing about collaborating with Norwegian partners is that Norway is pretty much Eastern Europe and Norway are the ends of the spectrum market-wise in Europe. So it's vastly different what drives the market in Norway, and especially in the welfare sector, because Norway is extremely strong country in terms of welfare and so on. So a lot of the choice of the end consumer, as you will, is governed by different factors than in totally consumer market. So it managed, it provided a lot of interesting specifics for us that we wouldn't even have if we didn't collaborate with a Norwegian partner. So it was quite interesting. It opened our eyes, not only a different market in terms of buying power, but different market in terms of needs, in terms of what drives consumer decisions, quite different. So it was definitely worthwhile shaping the product itself. So yeah.
Very cool, very nice to hear, and it's so nice to see that we can learn from each other and work together on such an important industry, as well as we can call it, as we're going towards a more aging population and people that really need innovative solutions to live independently and have a good life. So just we can maybe take one or two more questions more. What advice do you have to future applicants? We have some upcoming calls coming in this fall and winter in welfare tech. So what advice do you have, and what do you recommend for both the applicants, so is the Bulgarian or the Slovak or the Polish company, and also Wolfgang, do you have any advice for Norwegian partners when you are considering to apply and when you're actually in the application process?
Okay, so there are two main caveats, as you will, from the experience so far. One is, think of your innovation in terms of a product more, because we prior to starting with the Innovation Norway grants, we were used to EU grants. So the chief difference is you must think of your innovation as a product, because you need to provide a solid business plan, how your product is going to reach out the market, what market means, which are the potential buyers, how are your plans to actually do the whole supply chain, and so on and so forth. If your product, of course, has a supply chain, but it requires you to think maybe 2 years ahead, at least, in terms of your product. So that was another opportunity to shape our product much better. And the other thing is, bear in mind that, for example, sometimes the partnerships in the specifics in which you can engage with other partners might change. So for example, from partners, some participants might be changed to subcontractors. So bear in mind and do your budgeting in an agile fashion as well.
Great. That was also very useful to get real insight into what a B2B partnership looks like. And I hope this also encourages Norwegian and Bulgarian or Slovak or Polish companies to use this opportunity today to actually matchmake and get to know each other and discuss. Like you said, a project partnership takes time, so probably maybe you're not ready today, but starting the discussion already today can maybe lead to a partnership in 1 or 2 years. So thank you. I think we covered everything that we were wondering. And we can now go over to the next speaker. So thank you to Wolfgang, and thank you to Casimir. It was really nice to hear from both of you. Our next speaker is from the Norwegian Embassy in Romania, which is also accredited to Bulgaria. We have Councillor Thorstein with us today. He will be talking a little bit about the EEA and Norway Grants, and we're just actually going to build on these, build on this topic that we just had about B2B collaboration. So Thorstein, why don't you say a few words?
Thank you very much. Good morning, Oslo, and Dobar den, Bulgaria. My name is Thorstein Wangen, and as you then just said, I'm the new counselor at the Norwegian Embassy, leading the activities related to the grants established in the cooperation between the European Union and Norway, Iceland and Liechtenstein, the European Economic Area, what is referred to as the EEA grants and Norway grants. So thank you very much for inviting me to this webinar on welfare technology. And this webinar is important for 3 reasons. Firstly, it is related to technology. It is my point of departure that all major social changes were related to technology. Our time is not an exception. And we also know that new technologies many times were met with skepticism. And today, many people claim that technology benefits only the young and privileged generation. But this webinar sends another message. Welfare technology will benefit the older generation and often the less privileged ones. And that is an important message. Secondly, Bulgaria and Norway should strengthen their trade relations, and this is a major challenge in traditional industries. So this webinar sends the message that in order to strengthen the trade relations, we should encourage the enthusiasm, the boldness and innovations characterizing the companies taking part in this matchmaking. And the third argument for this webinar is a political one. Central in Norway's foreign policy is building bridges between different parts of Europe, bridges between generations, and bridges between people. And this is the basis for the whole EEA and Norway grants, and I'm very glad that our contribution could make this webinar happen. And in the framework of the grants, Norway cooperates with Bulgaria in several areas. And this webinar is part of the business concept, where Innovation Norway is an important partner. And we also have cooperation in areas such as home affairs, green industries, culture, migration, and others. Bulgaria became part of the EEA and the Norway grants in 2007. And the amount of 210 million euro is available to Bulgaria for projects in the actual period. And you are hereby invited to contact Bulgarian authorities, the Embassy, Innovation Norway, and the Norwegian Consulate General in Sofia in order to learn more about the grants and the cooperation between Bulgaria and Norway. I wish you all the best and success in this webinar and the cooperation ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thorstein. That was really nice to hear talking about the whole overview and the importance of working together as well. So I hope that also encourages and inspires companies to look for opportunities in our beneficiary states. And Frauke can actually now go more into detail about open calls and the upcoming calls in Bulgaria. Frauke is our head of office in Romania, so she is sitting in Bucharest, but she's also head of office in Bulgaria, and she is responsible for the business programs, and we'll be talking about the upcoming calls, not only in Bulgaria, but also in Slovakia and Poland, since we have a few Polish and Slovak companies present as well. So Frauke, take us through.
Yeah, thank you, Nikita. I hope you can see both me and my presentation. Yes, good. Yeah, I think that was already the perfect introduction to my presentation. And thank you to Thorstein. So I'm going to try and give you an overview over the welfare technology calls coming up under the EEA and Norway grants, or currently being published. And as Thorstein said, the objectives of the EEA and Norway grants are twofold. One is to contribute to reducing economic and social disparities in the European Economic Area. The other one is also a very important one, strengthening relations between Norway, Iceland, Liechtenstein, and the beneficiary countries. You have already said something about the contribution to Bulgaria. I have made a specific breakdown under the business development, innovation, and SMEs program area per country. And here you see two more countries that are relevant here today that also have opportunities linked to the welfare technology areas are Poland and Slovakia. And you also see that both of them also have, Poland has a huge program with 85 million euros, a huge business program, and Slovakia has a business program at around 20 million euros. So there are a lot of opportunities. And under these business programs, one of the focus areas is welfare technology. I'm not going to define once more what you can imagine, what welfare technology is, but I will try to give you some more specific examples under these calls. And Grzegorz will correct me if I get the business areas wrong, if he is still there, no problem. So, but first of all, let me tell you a little bit about who can apply under these calls. And something that is important, to know is that those who apply are from either Bulgaria, Poland, or Slovakia. So these countries are in the driving seats, and they need to be private enterprises under the business program, established as legal persons in these countries. So they are in the driving seats, and under all of these calls, Norway can, or Norwegian entities can become partners. So these are entities registered in Norway, but of course also entities in the three beneficiary countries could also join the project as partners. And here we don't have any limits to the sector of whether private or public. The main important thing is that they are a legal entity. But just one brief word about the partnerships, and we've already heard it's sometimes a little bit hard to know what's in it for me. And if I can try to say for whom this is relevant in Norway. These are actually two groups, if I may simplify a bit. So one group are companies in Norway that are maybe eager to gain international experience in a protected room or space of such a project, contributing maybe with knowledge or competence to a project, but not taking any risk. And then also typically, getting their staff hours covered by the project. This is one group, so there should be, the company should be willing to engage with transfer of competence, knowledge, maybe technology, and they should also know that then they get their staff hours reimbursed, and they would gain experience and could then sort of get acquainted with a new country, with a new culture, and learn a lot from such a project. And then in a next step after such a project participation, for example, take a little bit more risk, go out and try some other international programs. This would be one group of possible partners. Another one would be an enterprise in Norway that is willing to take some risk, that has some development project idea for developing a project together with a company from another country. Someone who, or a company who would be also willing to share a little bit of the risk, to share also, to get also a part of the results out of a development project, and who would also be interested then possibly to enter into a more some kind of strategic partnership after such a project. This is something we are very much looking for and encouraging you to do, because we have seen that those kinds of partnerships, they have a little bit higher threshold, but because they require more commitment from the partner, but they will also in the long run be much more rewarding and lead to much better and sustainable results. Good. Let's have a look at under these upcoming welfare technology calls, how much money can you get? It is maybe useful to say that under such a call, you will in general have to choose between two types of project. We have had Scalefocus here. They are doing a development project. They are developing a solution together. So their project is possibly being financed under Article 25 of the General Block Exemption Regulation. That is a regulation that is allowing us to give you state aid, even though maybe some state aid is in general not allowed. So we are using this Article 25 for those development projects. And then, as you can see, you can get a maximum of 60%, 25 plus 15 makes 40. And if you're a really small size company, you can then also get a bonus for being a small size company, according to state aid. So here you could possibly get 60% grant, just theoretically. And so to give you an orientation of what you can expect and what you could apply for if you have a development project. If you choose to go for an investment project, the article that we will then use is 13 and 14 of this General Block Exemption Regulation. And here the grant rate depends on the country and on, especially even more specifically, on the region where this takes place. This goes very much into detail now, but there is a range of percentage for Slovakia depending on the region, and also a range for Poland. And then again, if you are a medium-sized company, you can get 10% SME bonus, or if you are a small company, you can get a 20% for a small company bonus. Important to notice that the calls vary a little bit from country to country. Bulgaria has gone for the option not to allow for investment projects. We are exclusively aiming for development projects. This is important, while Slovakia and Poland allow for such investment projects. And also, when you decide what to apply for or where you should apply, we have two schemes. One is a scheme for individual projects. We call it individual projects scheme. It is for those companies that have been around for a little bit longer, that have already been active for around 3 years typically, and that want to apply for a minimum grant of 200,000 euros. And typically it is up to 2 million euros. And this is especially important if you go for an investment project. This is typically a little bit more expensive. Then also usually there is a small grant scheme, maybe for younger companies well suited who want to enter into the development of innovative solutions in the welfare technology area. So here the minimum will be around 100,000 euros, sometimes 50,000 euros to be applied for. This is the grant. Usually, or not usually, but always you will also have to provide some co-financing. The areas of activities, just to know what we're talking about, I have listed a little bit more specifically all those areas of activities that we would like to see that you develop technologies, processes and solution within. And I'm not going to read them out because you may get the presentation afterwards if you are interested. When you registered in this B2 match system, you also ticked off at least one of those areas of activities in order to give the other participants an idea where you are active and whether you might be a relevant partner for them, or a conversation partner at least. So, and again, within these areas of activities, all of the welfare calls in the 3 countries will enable or will provide the possibility for grants of developing technologies within the areas, and at least Slovakia and Poland also provide for the possibility of investment projects, which is here represented by the indicator application of technologies. This is just very briefly a slide that looks hopefully not too confusing to you, but this is just to illustrate to you how we think and to help you to evaluate yourself if your project idea will be eligible under this call. So each call or each business program has an overarching objective, which is for the business program increased value creation and sustainable growth in Poland, in Slovakia, in Bulgaria. And we would like then under this call, all of our grants, all of the projects somehow in the long run to contribute to an increased competitiveness of the enterprises. And then of course, more specifically of our project promoters, as we call them, once they get a grant. This means again that we have defined some outcomes, meaning results of the projects that we will finance. We would like to see that the projects financed under the welfare technology call will lead to an estimated growth in profit and also to an estimated growth in turnover. This is only able to be measured, of course, after your project has been implemented. So we will not punish you if you do not show these results right at the end of your project, but we ask you to estimate and plausibly argue that this will be the case. Also, we will then ask you to at least try to develop a process or solution. All of the calls will do that. So if you develop a welfare technology process or solution, your project will be eligible. And then for Poland and Slovakia, of course, the investment projects leading to an application of an already existing technology that is new to the enterprise will also be eligible. But please note that you cannot just then write a big shopping list and say, I want to buy this, I want to buy that. I also would like to finance a nice limousine for my company, but the important here criterion is also that any activity and any money being spent in your project needs to provide to the outputs, outcomes, and overarching objective of this program. If this is the case, and you can argue plausibly that this will be the case, your project will most likely be eligible. This is now the page where you can find the call in Poland. Currently, there is no open call, but we encourage you still to keep looking because there might be coming up a new call soon. This one marked here was closed in May, but there is a probability that there will be coming a new call in Poland quite soon, even though I cannot tell you the date as of now. So you have the internet address on the top of the slide. Then this is the Slovakian call page. Here you have actual opportunity now, which is a small grant scheme for welfare technology. And you see some details here already, so you can actually apply now. And if you have a partner from Norway, even better. Then this is the call page Innovation Norway has established. We are expecting our business call to be published next week or in a couple of weeks, hopefully. It depends a little bit on the approval process, but we have it sort of ready in our hands. And just some small advice to those of you who would like to go for such a project, if I have the time. Scalefocus and Norsk Regnesentral have already told you some key advices. I think preparation is key. It might take time when you go together for a partnership. It might take time to know your partner well, to check that you have a very good mutual understanding of what the project is about, and also how the roles are distributed and what possibly the intellectual property rights situation will be after the project. This is very important to agree about, especially when you do the development project. And this is why I also think that it is not really a problem that some of the calls are not published yet, because our experience is that it takes 6 months, sometimes even more, to agree about a project once you have found a potential partner. So consider this and let us know if you have more questions we can help you with. Thank you so much for now.
Thank you, Frauke. I hope that this also gives a little bit insight and advice and more depth on the EEA and Norway grants and the possibilities that we have within the upcoming calls. Actually, we are rounding off to our webinar. So let me just take you guys towards the end. We have a matchmaking coming up for our eligible partners and companies that are registered today. And Frauke already went through these criteria for applicants and partners, but I just want to remind you to use this opportunity to start an initial conversation, get to know each other. A partnership can take time, but just to make some new contacts, even though it's digitally, this is a really nice way to do that. And I forgot to mention in the beginning, but this event is part of this year's digital Oslo Innovation Week, which usually gathers over 20,000 people from all over the world to discuss innovation and to meet each other during different events in Oslo for a week. All of these events are now digitalized and are happening through webinars, but their logo and their slogan for this year is "It's time to build," and I think that that's a very suiting logo for, or slogan for us as well. Time to build new connections, time to build partnerships, and time to build new innovations and technologies together. So shortly, I just want to, before I go on to some matchmaking specifics, I want to just show you who, a little bit, I couldn't take, of course, all of the companies that are present today, but some of the ones that are really highly relevant for welfare technology, both from Poland and from Norway, as we have a lot of participants from these countries. This just shows you who you can expect to meet and who you can book meetings with in B2Match. The meeting booking is now open for the whole day, so you can book meetings and agree when to meet. Either it's on B2Match or on Teams. But we have, for example, oncology diagnosis, breast cancer self-diagnosis. We have a lot of companies within remote care dedicated to the elder patients, and this is something that we touched on from the beginning of the webinar, that is very important to think of creating solutions for the silver generation. We have biotech companies, we have telemedicine companies, and what's interesting here is that a lot of these solutions are in the crossing points between a new welfare tech, but also working with components such as virtual reality, machine learning, AI. It's also very ICT driven. So working together to create something new with the ICT focus is also very, very interesting to see. So please use this opportunity to get to know each other and see where it goes from there. One last thing is that if you're interested in more matchmaking opportunities, there is a similar matchmaking taking place on October 8th. This is also with the Polish program operator who is responsible for the program in EEA and Norway Grants program in Poland. Save the date, 8th of October. You can find this event on B2Match if you just search for new trends in rehabilitation. Also, I will send out this link later for those who are interested. We want to also just thank our partners who are present today, even though Arild has already left, but thank you to Norwegian Smart Care Cluster, to PARC, to Norway Health Tech, and of course to Enterprise Europe Network for a good collaboration on this webinar. And then to just give you some tips on succeeding with your digital meetings. So make sure your audio and camera is on. It's easy to forget, and it's easy to forget to sound check and camera check. But it's always nicer to talk to a person than to a black screen. And when you first are in your digital meeting, remember to give a short introduction and a background on what do you deliver, why is your company or your solution valuable in a potential project. So what can you offer that really makes you unique? And also Casimir touched on this, focus on your innovation. Now talk about the challenge that you want to solve. What is the pressing need in your market or abroad? Why does this need why does this challenge need to be solved, not only for our current generation, but for future generations? Then you can, of course, introduce your product or solution and try to put it into context, not only how it creates value, but how is this solution going to be integrated into someone's life or also into a society. Don't forget to ask questions and be curious about your meeting partner or their solution, and of course follow up with a digital meeting again if the meeting was successful. We don't know when digital or physical meetings will be possible. So we also saw that digital collaboration between Scalefocus and Regnesentral happens to work very well. So don't feel that these digital matchmakings are less valuable. Please do take the chance to matchmake. Henrik has just a small poll we would like to finish off with. And we will not launch the results of this poll because we're looking for your individual feedback. But please do take just 1 minute before you log off to give us some feedback. And then when you have given your feedback, I'm not going to keep you any longer. Thank you all for joining. Thank you to our speakers for giving us information and valuable insight into welfare tech, both in Norway and abroad and through the EEA and Norway Grants. And we will also be sending out a short survey later for those participating in the matchmaking. But otherwise, we are available for questions and answers. I saw there was one question in the chat. We will follow up with this question individually later, so you will get your answer when I've talked to my colleague. So with no further ado, I will round off the webinar, and yeah, thank you all once again for attending.